Hello, beautiful people. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's whistle review. Today I'm reviewing more river whistles, and these whistles are 3D printed. Now, you may have caught my video a few weeks ago where I reviewed one of the glow-in-the-dark high whistles alongside the high D whistle, and I've actually been sent an updated version by River Whistles. The original glow-in-the-dark one that I reviewed was the blue sparkle glow-in-the-dark high D. But I've also been sent the green sparkle. I'll quickly turn off my lights and I'll show you what these two whistles look like side by side with their glow-in-the-dark feature. You will need to leave them in direct sunlight for a few minutes to charge up if you want to experience this glow-in-the-dark effect. I wouldn't leave them in sunlight for too long. Winter sun you should be fine, but summer you might find that it affects the whistles. So just brief periods of UV or sunlight to get these to glow. So I'll show you what they look like now. The sparkle particles within the whistles is what holds that UV light and what glows. And they look pretty cool. So the top whistle is the first one I was sent that I reviewed last time round. And the bottom whistle is the new one. The first thing, as I mentioned, to note is that the new whistle that I've been sent is actually about 1 centimetre longer than the original. The holes are still in the same place, they're still the same distance apart, it's just that the general body of the whistle is a little shorter. It doesn't affect the tuning, surprisingly, because as far as I'm aware, it's the length of the tube and the positioning of the finger holes that keeps these whistles in tune. So I'll have to check the tuning on the new one to see if it's an improvement on the previous. Now, if we look at the mouthpieces, I don't know how well you can see on camera here, but the original has a squarer mouthpiece. Everything seems a little more detailed on this original, whereas the newer one is more flush with the body of the whistle. It's a smoother transition from body to mouthpiece, if you will. It's not as angular or as sort of chunky, I suppose. It's a generally slimmer design and a little more smooth overall. If I look through the top, I noticed that the newer one has a slightly larger windway than the previous. The one I reviewed last time has a narrower curved windway, and this new one's got a little bit more space here. So I'm interested to see how that affects the sound. They both still have the flat back where they've been printed. Again, not really an aesthetic issue, it's on the back of the whistle. But the new one is actually a little flatter, it's even more flat on the back there. So yeah, that's the main differences. Again, of course, the newer design is a different colour. The original was the blue and the new one is the green. So from what I can see at the moment, the tuning on the newer version is a little less accurate on the lower notes, but more accurate on the higher notes. And the whistle can actually play more notes because it can play the top C natural and the 3rd octave D. Whereas today I couldn't get the original to hit that higher C natural or the 3rd octave D. The original was a little more accurate on the lower notes and less accurate on the higher notes. So although the attempted new design has addressed some of the tuning issues on the higher notes, it unfortunately has ended up with some mismatched tuning on the lower notes. So I think there's still a little bit of tweaking to be done here. Again, these are 3D printed instruments, so it's not that easy to get things absolutely perfect. But as I said last time, they're the most incredible talking point. So although they might not be pitch perfect right the way throughout, a lot of whistles aren't anyway. So let me give these a little play so you can hear how they differ in their voice, and just imagine the tiny little tweaks that you can make when designing these instruments and 3D printing them. It's incredible how much difference those little tweaks make. So as you can hear, there is a little bit of a difference in the voice between the two. The original design, I think, was a little more rounded, crisper and clearer. The newer design, or the additional optional design, is a little softer, it's more chiffy, it's generally a little quieter, I think. It's more akin to a Clark original whistle, whereas the other was perhaps a little clearer and sweeter, something along the lines of Killarney. Now, the low G river whistle is a completely different design again. The entire mouthpiece and the blade is completely different, and obviously it's in a completely different colour. This one isn't a glow-in-the-dark whistle, it's a solid bronze colour, and there are a selection of different colours you can get these in. So I'll show you some close-ups before we move on to some facts and information about this low G whistle. Now, if we start at the top, you can see that the mouthpiece is very different. It's sort of a moulded design, more so rather than the blocky design of the smaller whistles. We have some patterning around the mouthpiece here. I'm not sure if you can see that. And we have this raised sort of wind barrier, essentially, around the blade. The blade is part of the 3D printed design. These are one-piece printed. We have the River Whistles little R logo here. And yeah, down each side, we've got Celtic patterning, and it goes all the way down the whistle. It's quite an interesting and aesthetically pleasing feature. We've got the key of the whistle on the bottom here. You can see the hole spacing is fairly easy to cover. Low G whistles often are. And I don't think any of these holes are particularly large. Again, the fifth hole, but that's always the case. One thing I will say is always there will be a flat section at the back, and that is where the whistles are printed flat on their back like this. It doesn't affect the playability of the whistle. It actually gives you a little bit of grip on the back, which is quite useful. So let's do a quick tuning test and a decibel test to give you an idea of how this plays in tune and the volume overall of this whistle. So as you can see, we're pretty well tuned on the low G whistle. I would say this is more impressive tuning-wise in general than the higher whistles. Not an overly loud whistle, so probably something you wouldn't want to use at a session, but a great whistle for playing out and about. Again, a beautiful talking point. The decorations are fantastic, and I really think this would be great for anyone who incorporates cosplay into their playing. It's beautiful. One thing to mention as well, as these are 3D printed, they're really lightweight. So low G whistles and larger whistles tend to get heavier because they're made of metal. You can get plastic PVC low whistles, and they're also lightweight. These are made from non-toxic plant-based 3D printed materials. So yeah, it's potentially less toxic than PVC would be, but also nice and lightweight. So let's give this a play and you can find out how it sounds. So as far as the voice goes on this whistle, I quite love the chirpiness of it for a low whistle. I think that's quite nice. It's still a nice, rich, round sound, despite it just being this sort of lightweight, thin material. I would say it's pretty sturdy overall, not something that you'd want to bash around very much. It wouldn't take a lot of dropping and things like that. I have got other whistles that I've thrown around mercilessly and they're still intact, but I wouldn't recommend being heavy-handed with this whistle. It might not be something you'd want to give to children. It's something you want to take care of. It handled half holes pretty well. It flies up into the second octave without any trouble. It's pretty responsive. And as usual, you've got that little bit of push on the notes, so you can really use the dynamics of the whistle. You can put more and less air into those notes without it breaking into the second octave, which I really like. Yeah, I'm quite impressed with this as a low whistle. As far as price goes, these are pretty affordable. The low whistle range in particular, I think, are probably far more affordable or value for money maybe than the high whistles. The high whistles are around $30, I think, and although that is incredibly affordable as far as instruments go, you can get metal whistles and traditional whistles that are maybe half the price of that. But as far as the low whistles go, these are $60, and there aren't very many low whistles that you can get for that sort of price. So that is a huge selling point for me. So that is it from me today on these two new River Whistles instruments. I hope you enjoyed the review. These whistles were sent to me free of charge. It doesn't affect my review in any way. I'm always honest on any products that anybody sends to me, regardless of whether I've bought them myself and paid for them or whether they've been sent. So yeah, hopefully it's helpful. If you'd like to buy or find out more information about these whistles, you can find the River Whistles website linked in the description down below. Again, I'm not an affiliate or anything, so it just takes you to the website. I don't make any money from this. If you did want to check out the original review of the first high D whistle and the glow whistle that I was sent, you can find that on screen now, along with a few other tunes that I think you'll like. Thanks so much for watching, folks. I hope you loved it. Have a great week, happy whistling, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!